So if you have not been on my group before, welcome. I am Joy Berkheimer. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a sex therapist. I am a coach. I'm an author, all those things. And I am your excited groupinar facilitator today. So in my practice that I work in Boca Raton, Florida, I work with couples, I work with individuals, I work with triads, I work with people who have all different types of relationships, whether you're coming by yourself or with many. It doesn't matter what you come to therapy about. Generally, it has something to do with how you're connecting or not connecting with somebody else. So I love working with all things relationships. Okay. Welcome to my hands. Cool. If you guys have questions for me, please make sure that you click the question mark so I know that the question is for me. If you have a question or response for someone else, please don't use the question mark. You can actually respond directly to another person by clicking on that little chat bubble that they have under their name, and it'll respond directly to what it is that they said. If you did not get a chance to read the stuff up top, I'll give you a brief overview. I do not do a Q&A at the end of my session, so I'm just giving you a heads up for anybody who that drives you crazy. There will be questions throughout the group. So I'll try to take a couple of questions per slide. If there are questions that I am not able to get to today, I will be answering questions tonight on my live on Instagram, which is at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm so excited. This morning I got loaded up with questions as soon as I posted. So I already have people who want questions answered about their relationships and things like that. So please feel free to send that to me if I do not get to your question today. Okay. All right. So guys, how many people are here because you identify as polyamorous? You want to understand if you identify as polyamorous, like maybe you have some questions about it, or you have a partner who is polyamorous. Want to understand. I want to understand want to understand if I'm poly. Definitely poly. Okay. In a quad, whoop, whoop, a mix of all. Partner is poly. Okay. I will have, wondering if I might be poly. Husband wants second wife. Okay. I will have some resources at the end so that you can get a little bit more educated on polyamorous relationships, kind of the dynamic, the makeup of these relationships. I'll tell you right off the bat, before I forget, the ethical slut is like a go-to for anyone who's trying to figure out what it is to be poly. And I want you to understand that it is a very individualized thing for you. Now, also understand that today's groupinar is not necessarily on education on how to be poly, right? But you'll get a definition about it. But I am coming at you from the perspective of your emotional well-being, when to identify some things are going on. And I want to give you some tools to be able to manage it, whatever your relationship makeup is, okay? So whether or not you are poly, the information I give you will be helpful, but it'll definitely be helpful in that relationship dynamic where we are sharing people. Okay. Nerd Guide to Unicorn Ranching is a good one. Thank you. And any resources you have, please feel free to share. I will also be sharing more book resources tonight. Okay. Again, if you guys have a question, make sure you hit the question mark so I know to look for it, that it's a question for me. What to do if someone losing feeling in a relationship for his partner? So that's a little bit different. Not necessarily a poly question. And I can answer your question, but I would need you to expand on some information. So guys, I do get a lot of questions where someone will ask me something like this. What do I do if I want to stand up? And my answer is always going to be to pause because I'm processing the question. And then I'm going to be like, you should stand up, right? So I need you to expand on questions if you need me to answer them. I need more details. Like, ask me a thorough question, if that makes sense. Okay. Feeling kind of a mess, relationship is suddenly poly. Definitely have a book for you. There's several books by Tammy Nelson also, who talks about kind of getting into a relationship style that you haven't been in before. And there's also a book called Designer Relationships. So I'll leave you with that one before I go ahead and start. And like I said, I'll give you a few more resources, but you guys can look up Designer Relationships as well. All right. So finding love enough for you, me, and them. So research shows that about 60% of our population worldwide is either interested in, desires, or is in a polyamorous relationship. I did a poll for myself without giving those statistics. I did it on Instagram before I even decided to create this group. I wanted to see if it would be something that was helpful. And when I asked people, would they be interested in a group like this? The statistics were, or the number that I got was 60-40. It was very interesting. So 60% people said yes, and 40% were like, no, we don't want to hear anything about it. So it actually lines up with the number that is worldwide. So that is an interesting statistic. Okay. All right. So the definition or defining poly, right? Or polyamory. So the practice of or desire for. So even if you've never been in a polyamorous relationship, you may identify as poly if you desire intimate relationships with more than one partner with the informed consent of all parties involved. Okay. So you may say, I think I'm poly because I've cheated on every single person I've ever been with. It's actually possible that your orientation, your relationship orientation may be polyamorous, but you were not practicing polyamory if you were with somebody and not telling all people involved that there was another person. Okay. I hope that makes sense to you. So we're looking at this orientation the same way we look at a sexual orientation. It is a part of who you are, even if you never necessarily acted out. Okay. So normal bumps on the road to a balanced relationship. And I already saw some people talking about some of the struggles that you get and the stigma that you get for being in a polyamorous relationship. And for sure, this is going to come up. We have enough struggles just in a monogamous relationship, if our family doesn't approve of the one person we're dating, but we have a whole other bag to deal with when we are deciding to live a more open lifestyle. And I do try not to say alternative lifestyle, because to me, it's not necessarily alternative. I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, don't proclaim. So it feels alternative. But again, if we're talking about a 60-40 split in terms of people desiring and wanting things, I don't know if it's really alternative, right? Okay, so some of the bumps that you might run into would be family, having to deal with telling your family where you're at with your relationship style, who you're with, right? With your family, your family could be very religious, or they could just be traditional. You don't even have to be religious to feel like a polyamorous or something outside of monogamy won't work, right? Most of us have been raised in a way where we are supposed to be with one person. We're supposed to only want one person, and even told that if we were to desire something or someone else, that there's something actually wrong with us, right? So our family, even if all of them don't actually agree, power comes in like the whole tribe, right? So a lot of times people will just kind of go along to get along, and you'll have a lot of people either maybe not supporting you, maybe not coming at you, but maybe not supporting you. Some people actually coming at you. You're not being protected by, against the people who are coming at you. You're being discouraged. Oftentimes our family want us to be in a lifestyle that they feel like will give us the least amount of attention and trouble, right? So they will deter us from anything that could possibly create issues for us or for their image, which is a thing, right? So there's a lot of turmoil that can go on there. Shame shield. Shame shields is a term that was coined by Brene Brown, if anyone knows who Brene Brown is. And she talks about what happens when we are experiencing shame. We have these 3 shame shields that will come up. We can experience all of them. We can experience one of them, but we probably have a default, right? So the 3 shame shields that you will see come up is either you are a person who will be over people pleasing because you're feeling insecure about where you're at. You will be someone who will withdraw and not talk to anybody at all. You will hide all the time. Or you will be someone who is always having outbursts, who is always like, I have to stand my ground, yelling at others, kind of barking at people in order to get them up off of you because you are experiencing an extreme amount of shame, even if they're not coming at you that hard. Insecurity, jealousy, definitely a thing that comes up in especially polyamorous relationships. I have a book that is a really good read. I have my couples and triads, people even in, I would say, like a swinger community and things like that, utilize this workbook called the Jealousy Workbook. Really good workbook for you guys to use as a group together, for you to use even by yourself to kind of individually understand some of your narratives and dynamics yourself, okay? Communication styles is definitely something that's important. There is a book called More Than Two, which actually talks about all the communication styles, and it's specifically around relationships where there are several people because communication is so important. Feeling alone and left out, definitely something that you would experience when you have a newer person kind of joining your tribe. Sometimes there can be all this, honeymoon energy towards this new person, and the old people in that relationship that was already existing sometimes can feel that it is ignored, because this new exciting thing that's going on. Okay. Assumptions from others. My gosh, how many TikToks and things like that do you see with poly couples? Maybe you don't. I follow them, so I see them where they are always fielding questions that their friends, family, the public is always giving them, these all types of questions about their sexual behaviors, their health behaviors, their religious, like they have a lot of assumptions about who you are just because of the relationship that you're choosing to be in. And sexual orientation. So when we talked about talking to family, some of the issues that come up is when we are revealing things to family, somebody in this group is either telling the family that you are not straight, right? You're bisexual. One of the people in the group is going to be bisexual. Maybe all the people in the group are not heterosexual, whatever the case may be. But your family has to deal with, okay, this is going to be this thing that's going on in terms of your sexuality, which shouldn't be that important to them, but it seems to be. And now you're telling me you're also going to have this kind of relationship. So you're going to come to Thanksgiving dinner with your two partners who happen to be women, and you're a woman too. Oh my God, what do I do with this? And then here come the assumptions. I'm never going to have grandkids, right? It's all types of things that come up. So these are normal things to come up. If you feel like you're experiencing them or you haven't experienced them, you're not by yourself. Every single person who has entered into this domain has experienced one, several, or all of these. And if you're looking to get into this type of relationship, I'm not trying to scare you away. I just want to give you the truth so you're prepared. You're not like, oh, how could this happen? Because it happens. All right. So I don't see any questions yet. Okay. Keep going. Let me scroll up really quick. Nope, not yet. Alrighty. Do you guys not see is there no question mark? Q&A isn't on. Oh my God, it's on now. Sorry. Whoops. All right, let me see if I see a question mark behind anybody's thing. Nope, I don't. All right, cool. Alrighty, so the vibe that won't align with your relationship, if you're looking to have a healthy relationship, something that is emotionally well, right? This is the vibe you do not want to have. So hold on one second. Hey, babe.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Good. What are you up to?
Nothing. I'm not up to anything. I'm just kind of looking at the news and.
You're not up to anything.
No,
Why are you being so sketchy?
I'm not being sketchy. I'm just looking at the news.
You're just looking at the news? So
what?
Can I see? Oh! So is this the news? Is this the good word? Because this looks like Tanisha.
Well, I was looking at the news and she chimed in and just wanted to chat a minute.
Okay, I mean, you could have just said you were talking to Tanisha. I don't understand. Why don't you say you were talking to Tanisha?
Well,
what is it? Oh, okay. Were you talking to Tanisha's little friends too? Her little friends on her chest area here? Like, okay, so Tanisha's sending you her little cute pictures.
I didn't even see that.
You didn't see it? Oh, because it says that it was already read. So that's kind of confusing how you didn't already see it. You know what? Maybe, I get it. You want to have your quality time with Tanisha and
maybe
everything.
my phone just
your
thought
phone
I was there.
Your phone thought you were there. No, so now we're lying.
Babe, I'm not doing anything wrong.
I mean, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. Like, clearly, I get it. We have a relationship with Tanisha, but the thing is, when's the last time you asked me for a picture of me? Right? Babe. Like, you got all the little sexy things, but you haven't requested anything from me. As a matter of fact, I feel like she gets a lot of this quality time. She gets a lot of this attention. And when's the last time I got any of that attention? Well,
you're busy, and I'm just killing some time here waiting for you to be done with work and stuff like that.
I'm done all the time. I make time for us, but I really feel like she's getting all my quality time. Like, you're over here scrolling, you're calling her.
She's not getting
it used to be that I was getting
time.
like my Tuesdays and Thursdays, and now you're taking like half of my Tuesdays and giving them to her. Like, what's up with that?
I was just chatting on the phone.
You're just chatting?
Just chatting on
You're
the
just
phone.
chatting.
You were busy.
Okay, so you
And
know
so
what?
I'm just
You
looking.
keep chatting. You keep being a little chatty Cathy with your little girl, Tanisha.
Oh my God.
It's all good.
You're all getting upset.
No, I'm upset.
What?
I'm good.
Okay.
Bye.
She's crazier than a bucket of grits.
Okay, what was wrong with this vibe here in their relationship? Lack of honesty, bad communication, suspicion, defensiveness, attacking, all of those. They weren't being honest with each other. Yes. And I'm going to say it now and I'm going to say it again. Just understand when you are moving through your poly relationship, it doesn't matter if it's your first or your third, you are always evolving in terms of what's okay for you. You're always like, you know what, this was cool. I could do it. No, I don't want to do this ever again. Right? Like there are going to be things that come up that you realize you do need a boundary around a certain thing. You do need to be made to feel secure around certain things. And you need to also tap into self to help yourself feel secure about things. Right? So yes, there are all types of red flags in the situation in terms of the communication and the assumptions and the defensiveness and the quick to like not communicate anymore. There's a lot of communication that needs to go on if you want your relationships to be healthy. Is she approaching him the right way? Probably not. Let me see right here. I identify as poly, but my wife recently has embraced the lifestyle. She has found someone to be with, but I have not. Oh, I am missing something from VA. Was that a VA? Where is this statement you made? It must not have had a question mark, so I missed it. Oh. VA. It was mine. Okay. Can you repost it for me so I can see the whole thing? It basically stops. Thank you. Okay. I identify as poly. Okay. But my wife recently has embraced the lifestyle. She has found someone to be with, but I have not. She often seems to have insecurity because I didn't run out and find another partner as soon as we open the marriage up to others. I am not sure what to do to help her through that insecurity. So she has an insecurity because you don't have a partner and she does. I mean, or is she afraid that you are actually going to be insecure and that she's somehow leaving you behind? Is that really what it is? The only thing that you can really do, I don't know what her insecurity is. Depending on what it is, you kind of have to reassure her. If she's concerned about your feelings, okay, then you have to be the one to reassure her again and again. Sometimes what happens, see, it depends on the rules that you have around this. A couple may say, when you go out, don't tell me anything about your outing, right? I don't want to hear about it. Like it needs to be a separate world, which can make your partner feel insecure. Like you're telling them, keep it a secret. I'm going to manage my pain the best I can. So sometimes to help your partner, if they're feeling like that, is to invite the conversation, to be excited with them. Like, okay, what happened? What did you do? Oh my God, that was cool. And what are you going to do next time? And not in a way of like, I need to track all of your things, but if you can show and actually feel genuinely excited about that connection, and maybe even talk about when you find someone, maybe some of the things that you would like to do, if you leave the conversation open without like a grimace on your face, that is what helps your partner feel like they're not deserting you. Okay. And I did see something else up here. All right. What is some advice for transitioning from a monogamous relationship to poly when one partner is hesitant or not interested? 12 years into the relationship with my wife, married for 5. I feel like I've discovered I might be poly and don't know what to do. It's going to be a lot of conversation with your wife as to what it really means to be loved, right? So when one of the people in the relationship feels like the definition of loving someone is that you are only with them, you want to basically have conversation about what your identification of love means, the abundance of love that you have abundance of time is not a thing. We can say that like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to be able to do the same exact things with you. That's not true. There is a negotiation around time and commitment and things like that. But you want to start to break down what these definitions are so that, because your wife has a meaning to it. It feels like a betrayal. What it feels like, someone who's never explored being poly, it feels like what you're saying to me is I'm not enough and you need something more. The reality is one person gives you just what they give you, right? And we give someone what we give them, but we are not everything to anyone. And that can sound harsh, but you know what I mean? You want to paint a picture of, again, how just because it's you're not everything, it doesn't mean that you're not essential to me. Like, I love salmon and I love steak, right? I have no desire to give up either one of those things ever in my life. So I can love them both. Simple as that. If you want to call it equally, everyone has different hierarchy standards and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, I don't want to get rid of either one. Nothing is not enough. Okay. How do I communicate to my partner that other relationships don't invalidate ours? It pretty much, with using analogies and examples like what I'm saying right now, you have to show the importance of this current relationship, of the relationship with them. No matter what happens, this relationship is always important to me. One thing that someone said to me, the last podcast I did was with somebody who is a solo poly, and she had a lot to say about it as she evolved in the relationship. And I never thought to use this as an example. What she uses as an example for people is like, well, how is it that people have multiple children and they're able to love all of them? That's a thing, right? So I know I have more questions I'm going to miss, but I just wanted to grab a couple and then move forward. Okay, so signs that you may be in emotional distress in your relationship, you or any of your partners. So I want you to understand for yourself that this may be emotional distress, but I want you to also be able to ID this in the person that you love, that maybe they need to talk to somebody, right? And maybe you need to talk to them and be a little bit more compassionate when you see that they're going through some emotional distress. You don't have sex with your children. What? I'm talking about love. I didn't say anything about sex. So polyamory, just so I can again identify, that just like jarred me really quick, is about loving many and intimate partners, and intimacy can be so many different things. I have an intimate relationship with my children. It's not a sexual one though, right? So just to be clear, that's what polyamory is. So you have to talk to your partner from the basis of what intimacy is. If your partner does not want you sharing sex with someone else, I don't know how you're going to make that work, right? But you want to start at the level of love, right? Because that's usually what we are more so on a deeper level concerned with. And we connect sex with love. Like, if you don't want to have sex with me, you don't really love me, you don't really desire me, right? So you want to start up here. You don't want to start with the basic, oh, you know, but we have coffee together, we have sex together. You can't have coffee or sex with somebody else. Start with the love part. That's where the insecurity comes from. So, okay. So signs you may be in emotional distress: being silent, someone just kind of turning off, not communicating anymore, not texting anymore. If you have a group text, you don't hear from them. Just when you guys are making plans, this person has just kind of disappeared. Or lashing out, right? Just being angry and irritable about a lot of things and not understanding why this person's level of energy is not meeting the situation. Completely disconnecting. So this may not be like being silent, but it could be when it's time for you guys to plan things, the person's like, yeah, whatever you guys want. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, really not invested in the changes and the goals and things like that. Like, whatever you want, I'll go ahead and do. I'm just, you know, I'm going to get into my hobbies. And when you guys need me, you can call me, and I guess I'll do stuff, but I'm not really fully invested. Trying to control everything, right? This definitely happens when somebody is feeling very insecure and they feel like they need to control the time. They need to control the way that you connect with the other partners and things like that, for them to be able to identify as whatever it is they're trying to identify as. And generally, the identity we want is good enough, right? So I'll control all the narratives around me, all the players in this movie, in order for me to be the queen bee or the queen king or the king bee, you know what I meant? Sorry. So that's usually where that comes from. Overindulging. So overindulging, pretty much anything that you might identify as like an addictive behavior, that could be overindulging in eating. It could be overindulging in sex. It could be overindulging in gaming and shopping, whatever it is. But it's just a mechanism to kind of ignore your feelings and push them down. It's to distract yourself. Okay. So a lack of sleep, if this person is not being able to sleep well during the night and there's no physiological reason for it, it probably has something to do with emotional distress. Projecting. Now, what projecting is when you see yourself in a certain way and you say those things to other people. Like, if I feel stupid, I might be walking around telling my partners, "You're so stupid. Why didn't you know we should have done this?" Right? That's what projecting is when you're pretty much talking about yourself, but you're saying it to other people. And blame shifting. And this is not projecting. Projecting is really like you really feel that way about yourself. Blaming is like, I have no accountability for anything and everything is everybody else's fault. Okay. Let's see. That was an interesting one. I'm going to scroll up really quick. Having a healthy social life is troubling being in a new place, not having my community in close proximity. Any tips for keeping myself separate and avoid becoming too involved in their world? Oh, you mean, okay, so if there's, say, 3 of you, just an example, and the 2 of them are doing their thing, you don't want to be over involved in their world. Well, you definitely want to have your own friends, right? Your own hobbies. So you're in a new place, not having a community, da da da. In this day and age, it's pretty easy. It's easier in order to connect with people who have a lot of things in common. Me personally, I love a good meetup, right? Now, we had a big time period where we couldn't really go out and meet people, obviously, because of the pandemic and quarantine, and things are opening up a little bit. But there are groups of people who are actually in poly communities who will meet on a regular basis. There's a community that I know was meeting all through COVID. When they were meeting virtual, so they were doing Zoom and they stayed connected because they were disconnected and they couldn't really see each other. So if your partner is out doing something, you can connect, you can find community for yourself no matter where you are. I find a ton of stuff on Eventbrite, on Meetup, on Instagram. Like, there's full-blown pages that I never knew existed until I kind of started researching more of it. But you can find a community for yourself, and they don't have to be poly. Just finding friends in and of itself is an important thing to have, so you're not feeling like you're sacrificing and your time is just going by while your partner is enjoying themselves. So those would be good places to go to. And if no one has ever tried it before, I absolutely recommend it. I've gotten great friends from this. When I moved to a place and I didn't know anybody, was Bumble BFF, just to make friends. So, okay. And it's definitely workout. Let's see. Well, that's a question. Is poly about fulfilling sex or love? How often do poly partners not have sex in their relationship? So if you're poly, that is an orientation around love. It's not an orientation around sex, right? So the percentage of people that don't have sex in a relationship is the same for poly, right? Like they are included in that bank of percentages of people who are asexual, who not necessarily asexual, just have a lower sex drive, things like that. For some people, maybe it is about fulfilling sex and love, right? You could be with a partner who does not really like to have sex a lot, or a certain type of sex a lot, right? And so there's an agreement that you guys can have this relationship and this can be fulfilled with an additional partner. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, your poly relationship is how you want to make it. I mean, some people, it is about love. Like, I have so much quality time to give. I have so many gifts of life that I want to give to someone. I want to support several people in an emotional and loving way. That it could be about an expansion of love, right? So it's really about, it's a very individualized thing. So there's no way for me to say, like, yes, this is what poly is about, this or this. And for some people, they literally have something called, it's like a financial polyamorous relationship. It is for a different reason. People are trying to build a tribe. They're trying to build like business. They're trying to build an empire, so to speak. So people have different reasons for wanting to engage in polyamorous relationships. Okay. Specific dating apps. This is a really good question. And this has been iffy, right? I mean, you can literally go to any site and you can just state very clearly what you're looking for. And I've seen it on all the sites. I've seen it on Bumble. I've seen it on Hinge. I've seen it on Match. I've seen it on, let me see, Black People Meet. I've seen it on, what's the other one I'm missing? I know I'm missing something. I can't remember, but you can find it in pockets in other places. There are specific apps for poly relationships, and I'm just going to be honest, a lot of them are lacking. They're lacking with actual people or a good bank of people. So it could be a little bit more difficult to actually find people. But again, surprising to me, they have full on like Instagram pages that are specifically couples looking for someone to be added, or someone who's solo who wants to be in a poly relationship. Like they have these full pages specifically for dating. It just takes a little bit of digging, but it exists. Okay. It's not a question, but I'm sure this is a feeling that a lot of people have. I love a guy and he's been poly, but I never have. I'm curious about it, but I hate being cheated on. I feel like I'd be okay if we weren't keeping secrets, but I'm nervous. And you should be nervous. If you've never done this before, this is absolutely something for you to be like, is this a place that I should go for myself, right? But it's give yourself, anyone who's trying this out, compassion and allowance to say no. This is not for me. You just because you started something, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like, well, I have to keep going, or they're going to say, oh, well, you said it was okay. You need to let people know, like, I'm trying this out. I don't know if it's going to be okay for me, but I love our energy, and I'd like to see where it can go. It's either going to work or not. Do not force yourself to do something, but be open to try, but don't feel like you have to stay stuck, right? Poly versus swinging, is there a difference? Just sex? I would say the initial makeup of swinging, like the lifestyle, was, yes, it is specifically around sex. I'll say that. And so poly is about relationships, but you can actually have poly triads who also swing, but they swing together. So yeah, because again, they're people. They're just people who, in their relationship makeup happens to be that. But yes, the difference between poly and swinging really is about relationship and sex. You're not committed to somebody that you swing with, okay? And let's see. What is the difference between polyamory and open relationships? What if an open relationship leads to polyamory unintentionally? You could say that open relationships kind of fall under polyamorous, because if we're talking about your ability or desire to have more than one intimate partner, right, and everyone knows about it, the open relationship really does actually fall under that umbrella. Cheating is when everyone doesn't know about it. Cheating is when there's a lie, basically. Okay? All right. So let's jump into the tips around managing your poly relationship. So, has anybody ever heard of the 4 agreements, which is also on the screen? Yes. Not at all. That is fine, because you're going to hear about it now. So the 4 agreements is written by Don Miguel Ruiz, and he's into like Toltec wisdom, which is like a Mayan wisdom. If you don't believe in things like that, it is fine. The 4 agreements that he teaches is something that can apply to anybody, regardless of your spirituality, your non-spirituality. So basically, it's 4 tenets or things for you to live by, to remember to live by. It's a tiny book. You can get this on Amazon for like $7.99, super inexpensive, something that I think everyone should have on their desk, in their bag, in their office, somewhere that you can grab, because we often forget it. So it's not even as many as the 10 commandments, right? It's just 4 of them. It's just 4. And there's no punishment for not following them, right? Other than, if you don't follow them, the consequences that your relationships and your view of self and your connection with self might be a little bit less. But other than that, there's all benefits from here, right? Do you have any tips on understanding which issues in relationships are about the one-on-one relationship and which are about the group? It's always a one-on-one issue. It's not necessarily about the group, right? So if there is an issue in your polyamorous relationship, one of you has an issue with one of you. It's not necessarily one of you has an issue with 2 of you. One of you is insecure regarding another one of you. So this is the way that we would look at it. Say I'm in a triad, the way we look at it is that we have 4 relationships. There's 2 relationships. There's a relationship with me and Tanisha. There's a relationship with me and James. There's a relationship with James and Tanisha, right? And then there's a relationship for all of us. So, but generally when there's an issue, it's somebody has an issue with somebody, and it spreads out like a disease to the entire group, if that makes sense. Okay? Sometimes we lie because the truth hurts more. Hurts who more? We lie because there's consequences to us. Period. Not to the other person. We lie because there's consequences to us. So, okay. So I'm going to move on to the 4 agreements. Now, 4 agreements. Definitely pick up the book. I'm going to go over the 4 agreements and talk about how we can apply them to our relationships, monogamous, polyamorous, triad, quad, open, close, whatever your relationship is, this would apply. So the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Don't lie. It serves no purpose in your relationship. It only plants a seed of destruction down the road. I promise you. Promise. Lies and secrets. That is what happens when you are not impeccable with your word, right? So, authentic with those that you love. So this applies also to your friends or your family that you are deciding, and you guys know you don't have to come out to the world. This is not a requirement for you to be valid in your relationship. But for those that you are inviting in, there's a concept of coming out and the concept of inviting in. So those that you are going to invite into your life, into your world, be authentic with them, right? Be true and honest about who it is you're being. If you're deciding to tell them, go ahead and tell them. You don't want to tell them half of the story and leave out something else so that they can later feel like you lied to them, right? What happens when you start to not be authentic and not be true, they blame the partners. They're like, oh, you weren't like this before. So the reason you're smoking now, the reason that you're going to swingers clubs now, or the reason that you're lying to us now is because these evil partners. That's what it is, right? They don't blame you. And that's not what you want. If you want the support from the people around you, you don't want to create a situation where they have opportunity to attack the people that you love. Okay. So follow through with what you say. If you say you're going to be with me on Tuesday and Thursday, please don't switch up my nights, right? Like, oh, she had a special thing, whatever, right? No, it's my night unless we have a discussion and I feel good with this, or we're all going to be a part of it. Oh, so we're all going to spend Thursday together. But the point is, don't leave your partner out, whatever the commitment is, right? Or every time I go out, when I come back, we're going to reconnect and we're going to do this ritual together, right? Or every time this and that, this is what's going to happen. Be consistent with that. Follow through with the things that you say. Your words have power. Understand how soothing it is that you can be when you tell somebody that you love how important they are. If you're going out with the other partner, maybe they don't necessarily need it or they're not appearing needy, but understand that just by dropping a little bit of a seed of their value before you go can change the whole vibe of how you feel while you're gone and how they feel while you were gone, right? Say the things that you really mean. Don't assume that your partner always understands this love that you have. Remind them, why not? It is super powerful, okay? We can manifest a lot of things. So, let me see. Got some heavy questions over here. Is it healthy if your current monogamous partner says they are open to possibly try polyamory, but they want a guarantee if they don't like it that we will return to strict monogamy? Do you have tips for how to handle when one partner decides it isn't for them? I'm worried about falling in love with a new third person and then my current partner deciding it's not for them, and then I'll be forced to choose one and I'm not sure how to proceed or how I should handle this. No, I don't have any guaranteed tips. This is the risk that you take. This is literally the risk that you take. I've been there, right? And it's just a risk that you take where if it is that important to you to explore it, you're going to explore it. And you have to deal with what these consequences may be at the end. So yes, what if you fall in love with this person, this new person, and your old person's like, nope, we can't have any of this? I wouldn't make that promise to them, because are you going to really follow through with that? Are you going to be able to go back? Because then what happens is there's a breeding of resentment and things like that, right? I would try to have the conversation with them where they remain as open, because I have no idea what my heart's going to feel. I have no idea what you're going to feel. Can we just explore it and continue to talk about it? If your partner's telling you without a guarantee, I'm not going to do this, you have to respect that. And then you have to decide whether or not you're going to do it or not, right? But I would be honest, I wouldn't set them up for you to have this thing where they have basically power to pull the rug up out under you anytime you want. You need to be honest about how you feel. And it stinks sometimes. It's tough, but you know, you're choosing what it is that you really want to have. When my wife goes out with her partner and I'm feeling insecure, I tend to text a friend about it instead. Is that the right way to handle it? That's not a wrong way. You can absolutely do that, right? Because you might be feeling like, well, I don't want to text her and make her feel like she has to make me feel secure and she has to say all these things. It's her time. I want her to have a good time. There's nothing wrong at all with you texting your friend, right? As long as you're not forcing your friend to give you therapy and all this type of stuff. But yeah, it's talking to your friend about it, allowing them to hear you and you hear them. You know, you get the feedback that maybe they can motivate you and things like that. There's nothing unhealthy about that. Okay. If you feel like it's something that you want to talk to your wife about, like, hey, I want you to know that I do get a little bit secure and maybe we can create this ritual before you leave and you come back. So it kind of helps to ground me. I would definitely talk to her about that. Don't keep it a secret that you're feeling that way, because what will happen is it'll come out like sideways and she'll be like, wait, what happened? You know, she'll be surprised. So I would tell her, but not during the time that she's gone, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back to Jayan's question. I will. All right. So agreement number 2, don't take anything personally, right? So the first thing is, you know, your word is impeccable. The next one is don't take anything personally. It's not always about you, right? So the movement of attention to another person, right, when you expand your relationship is not about your lack. We talked about this a little bit. It's not about you not being enough. This is what a polyamorous relationship is. And every dating relationship in the beginning of it, you know, and that's a part of why some people do enjoy poly as well, depending on how they do it. The novelty is a thing. It is a thing that is exciting, right? And so that new person is going to get poured into quite a bit. You want to learn to balance, right? And you want to call your partner out if they're completely being off balance with it. But do not expect, like, just because they're buying this person gifts, they're taking him out to the movies now, and maybe you hate going to movies and they're so excited they now have someone to go to the movies with, right? All that stuff doesn't mean like they don't value you. This person just has something different they're bringing to the table, and you know, your partner's enjoying it. Hopefully you're able to enjoy it as well. Others projecting from shame during the journey is not about you, right? So remember I told you about those shame shields that you could either be projecting on people, like yelling at people, you could be pulling back and not talking at all, or over people pleasing. These are things around you feeling shame, okay? And so if your partner is experiencing this thing, just because they're coming at you does not mean that you did something wrong. Doesn't mean that you didn't follow through, that you didn't follow the agreements, because guess what? Your partner can just change how they feel. Like, I don't care about our agreement. I just don't want this anymore. And you're like, but what did I do? I did all the things that we said we would do. It can change because we're human, right? This is like a tricky thing, especially if it's something that you haven't explored before. All right, let's see. Partner recently did a whole bunch of not following through on what was said. Days were changed up. I felt left out. Trust was breached. And I went to bed alone on a night when we agreed otherwise. Trying to reestablish trust, uncertain of best practices. Partner is anxious about how to negotiate the other relationship now. Yeah. The only thing that your partner is going to be able to do to reestablish trust is recommitting to whatever the structure is that you guys have and being able to follow through. Breaking structure is not the end of the world. Breaking structure without saying something is a problem, okay? So if I have the agreement that my partner can go and see his girlfriend once a week, and I'm fine with that, and I always keep myself busy or whatever, well, when she starts to ask for twice a week, and he knows that she wants it and she needs it, and maybe she's going to go away if she doesn't get it, and he somehow finds a way to go out another night with her, but he never said to me, I'm going to be out another night, I have a problem with that, right? So we just need to communicate about it. Is it possible that I'm going to say, no, she can't have another night, get out of here? It's possible, but it is worse for you to do it and then make me feel like you don't care about what I said. You don't care about how I felt, that I'm alone. You care more about how they feel. That's what goes through our head. That's not necessarily true. They're between a rock and a hard place, right? They want everyone to be happy. But it's when you don't communicate with me, I just come up with my own assumptions, and that's a problem. So basically, I would go back to having your partner recommit certain things, understand how important this commitment is, And they have to display it to you for a certain amount of time for you to be comfortable again that you can trust them. Oh, the overall rule number 2, sorry. No. Where am I at? Sorry, guys. Don't take anything personal or personally. So that was the rule. Don't take anything personally. I think it's impossible to be wholly honest. You don't have to be honest. Like when you wake up in the morning, your morning breath is like the worst. But there are things that you do need to be honest about. Like if you want your relationships to be healthy, that's my answer to that. You don't have to be honest about everything if you don't want. You can lie about everything. People do it all the time. The rate of infidelity is so high because obviously people lie all the time, right? The rate of people stealing, fraud, all those things are high, right? So that would be someone who tells himself that you can't be honest about everything. I got to get what I want to get. When we're not honest, it's because we're afraid that something is going to block us from getting what it is that we want, right? But being honest isn't being cruel. There's a difference between that. So, all right. So I'm going to come back to one of these questions. Seems like it would be a good one. This is basically my question 2. All right, I'm going to come back to these questions in a second. So number 3 is don't make assumptions, which we all do. Do not make assumptions. So your poly relationship rules can't be assumed, right? From prior relationships. If you've done this before, if you've seen it on TV, if you've seen your friend, well, this is how they did it. You can't mirror everything they do. And a lot of the couples or triads or quads or tribes that will show themselves online will say, this is how we did this. And this is how, and you'll think, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Or you'll read a book and like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. The rules are what you, in this particular relationship, make it what everyone is comfortable with. It is difficult to come to that. And somebody has to bend and compromise and stretch themselves. Yes, especially you're dealing with more than one person. But it is possible, but don't come in there with an assumption and then be mad because the other person didn't know they were supposed to check in at 11:15 p.m. every night. Like, what? How would I know that? Oh, because I always do that in my relationships, right? So don't expect your partners to know the boundaries that are not verbalized. Communication, again. Okay. Do you have some tips for coping with the urge to over-accommodate partners newer to polyamory? I care so much for their experience and feel pressure to give them the best impression I can of what a poly relationship can look like. This pressure is putting some brakes on my own pursuit of other relationships. I feel like if this is your primary relationship, so to speak, you kind of have to do that, right? It's baby steps. You're breaking somebody into something. You have to move slower. If you were teaching somebody a new skill, if you're teaching me karate, so to speak, you have to move slow with me. You can't expect me to just show up at class and be able to do all these things or just to sit on the sidelines and just watch you and then I'll learn that way. No, I want to know that I'm engaged with you. So I don't want you to feel anxious about it, but yes, there is an expectation that you should pump the brakes a little bit out of respect for catching your partner up. How to get myself in control because I feel insecure about my relationship with my fiance and we're planning to get married. And the love, communication, attention are slowly down. We both love each other and want to be together. Need help. Frame that in the way, I don't understand what you mean in terms of a polyamorous relationship. Is there a poly question in there? You're just talking about in general your relationship, how to get the communication back up. And if that's the case, if you could email me or direct message me, I can answer that question later tonight. What? Rule number 1, what happens in polyamory stays in polyamory. No, oh, no, what? No, let me go back. Be impeccable with your word. Okay. All right, so agreement number 3, always do your best. Is that number 3? Yes. Or is it number 4? I apologize, guys. Sorry. Always do your best. So number 3 was don't make assumptions. And number 4 is always do your best. Always show up, if you can, as the best version of yourself. Now, the best version of yourself on Tuesday is going to be different than the best version of yourself on Saturday, and that is fine. But just like somebody was just now asking and talking about, like, I feel a lot of pressure to do this. This is probably you being your best compassionate self, which is different than the free self who's going to go out there and cultivate these awesome relationships with people, which you should be able to do. But there's a different version of yourself that is required and needed to facilitate that freedom, right? If your partner's not happy, you don't feel free. I know that for a fact. So there's work to do. There's a foundation to lay. So always be your best version of yourself. So consider these insecurities and reassure your partners. It is normal. Your partner is not creepy and needy just because they feel insecure. This is absolutely a normal experience for everyone to have in these relationships. It's new. It's a new way of being. Again, we're redefining love for everybody here. Remain honest about the changes in your feelings, right? So if I no longer want this boundary that you've tried to put on me, or I no longer desire to go in this direction, maybe I said I only would date women, but now I feel like I want to date men, right? You have to be honest about this. Do not hold your breath and just tell your friends about it. Don't just tell your therapist. You need to tell the people in your relationship so they can either adjust or not. And consent versus hiding, right? Best version of yourself in a polyamorous relationship is not cheating. Cheating can happen in any type of relationship, this one as well, okay? Oh, thank you guys for the email. The relationship anarchy smorgasbord is really great for establishing what form of relationship. Ooh, like this. Would she be able to join on my account for another showing of this, or would she need to sign up on her own? You know the answer to that question. You want me on this BetterHelp platform to tell you that it is okay for your wife to steal this groupinar? You think I'm going to answer that question? Y'all really be trying to set me up, for real. Listen, I'm not going to get in your business, though. All right. So I want us to remember this. The 3 C's are very important. Very important. Communication, consistency, and community. When I say communication, it is communicating with the right people, which are the people that are in your relationship. Not telling everybody else your problems, but talking to each other about it. Moving things around based off of your communication and not communication you got from somebody else. Well, so-and-so said this is what we should be doing. You guys need to talk together, having kitchen table talk. There's different things that different relationships call it, but it's pretty much you on a regular basis coming together to communicate. Consistency, we talked about that. You do what you say you're going to do. And when I say community, I mean the community within your group. I should be able to rely on my partner's partner if, depending on the dynamic of our relationship, I need to at least be friends with them. I need to at least like them. This should be my community. I should be able to text you anytime if I'm scared about our partner who is sick or hurt. I don't know where they are, right? No animosity. And community should also be your bigger community that you have. Do connect with other people outside of that community, okay? So there is a recording that will get sent to your email and you'll have access to it for 7 days. So if someone's sitting behind you while you're watching it again, you know, what are you going to do? Okay. This is the BFF that is most important in our polyamorous relationships. You want to be friends first. Be friends before anything else. Yes, sex is a part of every relationship, right? And it's super exciting and it can be super different and so dynamic when we're including other people and all types of stuff. But you need to be friends first if you want this to be sustainable, okay? No, it wasn't a stupid question. Wait, what are we saying is that there's no stupid questions? If I'm joking with you, I apologize. There's no stupid questions. I do want to give you these resources, and I'm going to scroll back up and grab some more of these questions. These are some of the resources that are online that will be helpful in terms of building community. On YouTube, there is a Boldly Grow Design Your Own Relationship page. I love this girl. She has like different instances that come up with poly relationships. They're not as bootleg as my video was. They're pretty nice. And she's talking about basically tips to get through these different spaces. And a lot of the questions you guys asked, she could probably answer. At Polyamory Awareness is a great page for definitions, right? They basically take all the definitions that are online and bring them together on their Instagram page. Effie Blue is a coach who specifically works with people in open relationships. Meetup, there's all types of meetups for you building that community, okay? And so as the world evolves around us, we evolve. So do our passions, our relationships, and our willingness to just love. So I do have a couple of things that I wanted to drop in for you. I know I only have a couple of minutes in terms of some additional resources. The jealousy handbook I showed you guys, I have that. I have the link for it on Amazon, which is really good. And so this is something that I would work, even if you're not in a poly relationship right now, because I do have a couple who's not, they're swingers. They're not in a poly relationship, but they're thinking about moving it. They're utilizing this workbook and they love it. And the other one is, oh, the 4 agreements. If you haven't gotten it, absolutely think about getting it. Okay. All right. So let's go back up here. Polybook recommendations geared more towards boomer Gen X perspectives. So here's the thing. Parents need different resources, maybe an older voice that speaks. So I'm going to go back to the ethical slut because I'm going to tell you why. This was written a long time ago and they did a new addition to add things with millennials and things like that. So that book, even though I know someone was like, oh, it's so heavy, it really does give different dynamics and perspectives. It's not like you have to read the whole thing through. Let me see. So one of the things, and I'm going to show this again tonight, that I recently got from one of the couples that I follow, the Smart Girl's Guide to Polyamory. This is more user-friendly, a little bit of an easier read. Now, if anybody, you don't have to identify yourself. If anyone has had any infidelity in their relationship and you've decided that you want to move to a polyamorous relationship, Tammy Nelson, who I mentioned earlier, is great. She has a bunch of stuff on these types of relationships, but this one specifically, redefining your relationship after infidelity. Okay. If you've decided not to leave, right? And this other one's too convoluted, so I won't give you that one. Okay. Let's see. And how should I introduce the idea of polyamory in a new relationship? I'm queer and I'm aware that the default of sexual relationship is straight relationships. I'm talking to a guy I really like, but would also like to have a girlfriend. Tips for navigating that relationship. Lots of people are already afraid that queer people will always leave their partner for the other gender. And I don't want, this just is going to go right back to just having a really honest relationship. When I had this relationship with my partner, it was very difficult, but it was the beginning of our relationship. And I was very clear, like, this is what I want. And it's like, what? And so even though we have this idea that guys just love it when you like girls, they can also be intimidated when you're like, yeah, but I want a girlfriend. And it took a lot of time and a lot of making this person secure in our bond. And even when it finally happened, there were still hiccups, right? You have to always remember that you're always being the best version of yourself and that you are always caring about your partner's security, not in a way that they're abusive and controlling, but it is reasonable for your partner to feel insecure. But there's no special way to go around it. You just have to be honest, like straight line, okay? I do have here's the thing. I know I missed questions again. So I'm going to be answering questions tonight. I know it's 1 o'clock already. So 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you come on the live, I will answer the question. If you email me, if you direct message me, I'll answer the question. It'll be recorded. You can look at it later. Even if you can't come at that time, it's perfectly fine. And I do know I have something else that I wanted to share with you guys, but I'll be sharing it tonight. So you guys had really good questions. The live will be more open focus, so I won't have to just be, trying to get through slides or anything like that, okay? Breakup Book by Kathy is a really good too. And Poly Secure by Jessica Fern. Thank you. You have access to the recording 7 days. Yes. Trying to see if I miss. How would I know if polyamory is for me? You have to try it. There is a quiz that will help you find out whether or not you are polyamorous. If you go to Effie Blue's, remember I said Effie Blue. If you go to Effie Blue's page, her first page has a polyamorous quiz to let you know whether or not you might be polyamorous. And this is also a quiz that you can direct to your partners who you're like, maybe this could be for you. I know you say you don't like it, but maybe you do, right? So she has a free quiz that anybody can take. Okay. All right, guys, please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Like I said, don't hesitate to either DM me at Glow Your Goddess, or email me at joy@glowyourgoddess.com. I already have some really good questions for tonight, so I'm really excited about tonight's live. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Bye.